My name is Val. Please tell me how you met your partner. How often have you had cases where your parents forbade you to meet? Unfortunately, my boyfriend and I went through this, and all because I'm not from the family they planned to set up with their son. This is a modern story of Romeo and Juliet, which turned out, only the end is different. Do you want to know more? Then look. I was born and raised in a simple family. My parents worked like horses all their lives, and we have a family business, a small grocery store on the next street. We weren't poor, but we weren't super rich either. Once a guy came to us. I noticed him because he was surrounded by some strange men in black suits. They came to our store, searched everything, and only then did he come in. A guy was walking around our store, and then he came up to me at the checkout and asked if we had fast food noodles. I was surprised why he needed it. I said yes and went to show him, but when he asked me which one was the best and cheapest, I gave him a couple of packs. He read the cooking method for a long time, and then he was like, "Can you cook it for me? Or show how it is done?" I said I didn't have time for this and went to the checkout, but he didn't fall behind. He pulled $100 out of his pocket and said it was for the service and $2 more on top for the noodles. Well, okay. I put the kettle on, made some noodles, and he made the other one himself. After a couple of minutes, it was ready. I gave him a disposable fork and invited him to sit on the couch to eat. He ate with such an appetite that it felt like he hadn't been fed in ages. He also asked me to eat the second one sitting next to him. It was a good thing that there were no more customers at that moment. We ate, and then he said, "My name is Ted," and holds out his hand. I shook it and said my name. Ted asked for a drink, and I gave him a can of Coke. I asked him what he was doing there, because I didn't want him to eat in such places and this kind of food. Ted said he was studying a different side of life. "Ah, I see. The quirks of the rich," I said, getting up from the couch. He laughed, then asked what else he didn't know. "You can't tell me everything. There are a lot of good things. Delicious, simple, and sometimes completely free," I said. He asked me to show him all this, but I told him I had to work. Then he offered me a deal. "Will you work for me? I'll pay you well, but you have to be there almost always. Now it's still a vacation. There is no school," he suggested. Ted did offer a good amount, and I agreed. Then he took me to the store and bought me a black suit. "You pretend to be my bodyguard, like my guys, so that there won't be any questions from my parents or anyone else." Well, okay. I agreed, put on the suit, gathered my hair in a strict ponytail, and we went to have fun. That day, Ted tried hot dogs for the first time, rode the carousels, ate chips, and we played games in the amusement park grounds. Then Ted said that we should go to his house so that he would show his mother, and then he promised to send me home with the driver. When we got there, my jaw dropped. There was a castle like I'd never seen in my life. It seemed to me that if I got lost there, I would never find a way out, and I would grow old in the search. Ted had a quick talk with his mom and headed for the exit, and I stood among the big guys and stared at the walls. And then his mother asked about me. I looked at him in confusion, and he interrupted me and said that I was his new bodyguard. His mother objected. Like, what kind of bodyguard am I? She added that if his father found out, he would be unhappy, but he said that everything would be fine. We saw each other every day, and within a week, I had earned a great car. I was happy. I couldn't believe that this was happening to me. At the same time, I felt like I was getting used to Ted and wanted to spend time with him myself. Then he got sick. I wrote to him, but he said he couldn't get out. I made chicken broth and went to see him. Ted gave me an employee pass, and I got in without any problems. His parents weren't home, so I fed him in peace. Ted was touched. We spent the whole day together. I took care of him, and in the evening, we decided to take a little walk in his garden. It was nice. We talked a lot, and I felt warm around him. Well, then he had to go and walk me to the driver, and he suddenly kissed me. It was beautiful. However, I also got infected and was treated for another week after that. Ted felt guilty, so he visited me, brought me food, and met my family. We started dating. True, I had already heard my father say that we were not a couple, that his parents would not allow such a union to take place, but I did not want to listen to him. We were in love with each other. After another conversation with my father, I went to Ted. He was surprised when I came and I told him everything in tears. Ted told me everything was going to be all right, reassured me, and then told me that he would come up with something. The next day, he invited me to visit. I found out that it was his birthday. I was so embarrassed to be without a gift, but he said it wasn't a birthday party, that it would just be the two of us. The staff gathered us food and we had to go on a picnic. On the way, we stopped at a gas station near the house. While he was filling up the car, I bought something else for us. He came up to me and kissed me, and at that moment, another car pulled up and his father got out. I wanted to sink through the ground. Ted lied about his bodyguard and his father being like, "Yeah, I can see her guarding you." He told us to go with him, and we got in the car and went to the house. We were silent all the way, and his dad looked at me. In his father's office, we were asked questions like how long we've known each other and all that, and when his father found out that I was from a simple family, of course, he immediately forbade us to communicate. This was to be expected. I was upset, but Ted said that he and his father had a long-standing agreement that Ted would go where his father said he would, provided that Ted chose his own servants, bodyguards, and friends. It must have gotten to him that his father was controlling too much of his life. After this conversation, he officially employed me as a bodyguard so that we would be together most of the time. What you won't do for love. All I had to do was wear a black suit. I do not know what will happen next, but for now, his disgruntled father does not say anything, and we live in the present. What do you say, friends? Put likes and write comments to my story, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
I'm Dina. I'm 16 years old, and I go to school with a bodyguard. If you only knew how annoying it is. And all because of the fact that my father is obsessed with safety. He says the threat could be around any corner. I even have the right of freedom to give, and I'm tired of it all. In general, my father himself has been working as a bodyguard for a very rich businessman for many years. Probably as long as I can remember. I grew up without a mother. She left us and ran away somewhere. My father says that she has a different family for a long time, and she did not run away from us, but rather from a problem family. My father's profession has greatly affected our way of life. At first, when my parents got married, my father worked in the special forces, but after one special operation against terrorists, where he lost a loyal friend, my father vowed to leave his job. The salary there was good, and my father did not agree to anything less. He was looking for a job for a long time, until one day Uncle Cole offered him a temporary part-time job as a bodyguard. At first, Father was squeamish about this work, saying that he had previously protected the national security of the country and now someone's fifth point or something. But since it was temporary and with very good salary, he agreed. I've stayed there ever since. He won the trust of the chief, several times offered his chest, and miraculously it was not a scratch. That businessman liked it. He gave me a raise just to keep my dad working for him. But there were disadvantages. Dad was rarely home, and when he came, I heard they bite Mom. That's not because job is dangerous, because the daughter is growing up without a father and so on and on. In short, my mother called me and my father problematic and flew away. Where, I don't know, and don't want to know. Only the rumors are getting around that everything is fine with her. Well, okay, so much the better for her. After she left, my father looked more concerned than I'd ever seen him before. I thought it was all because of the breakup with my mother, and he was thinking about me saying, "Who will watch me now? Who will look after? I'm an adult," I thought. "That's right," my dad would say, and I still didn't understand him. Well, then I got into trouble. I stayed at a friend's house and went home late. Dad was always at work. I didn't notice the stranger following me. He walked like a shadow for almost a few blocks, and as soon as I turned a corner, he attacked me. I screamed so much in fear that I almost lost my voice. To my surprise, my father came running out of nowhere and broke his jaw with a single blow. He immediately whined and ran away. I looked at my father in a state of shock and did not understand where he came from. I was released from work early, as the nobility. Naturally, my dad and I were scared to death. I stopped going to school for 2 weeks, and Dad promised to take care of everything. So from that moment on, it was decided to hire a bodyguard for me. I was against it. I knew that I had experienced a terrible situation, but personal security? It was too much. But the father insisted on his own and personally selected the guard the experience still has. I was surprised when I saw how many people consider themselves security. In general, in the end, I was assigned a bodyguard. His name was Steve. It's a stupid name, but I didn't choose it. It turned out that he was doing a good job. He was well built, but he didn't seem to be able to talk. He just looked around and followed me everywhere. I went to a normal school and imagined the faces of the people around me. All of a sudden, I got a bodyguard. Even the wealthiest students didn't have security. My first day of school seemed like hell. As soon as I walked through the school gates, I became the center for jokes. Local trolls shouted phrases like, "This is Dina. She suddenly appeared something valuable." And "Who is this stupid guy, your boyfriend? And can he talk or what? And why is he in a suit for a funeral? Where did you buy a guy?" Oh, I got even angrier with every sentence. To my regret, the school management went to my father's meeting and agreed that this stupid person would accompany me everywhere. At first, my classmates took pictures of me everywhere. Then they took pictures with me, or rather with us. But every time my classmates came up to me, he stood between us like a wall and didn't move. And when our boys decided to imitate him and threw apples at him, he caught almost everything and crushed it in his hand. The juice spurted out in all directions, and with a look, he made it clear that the next time their head would be in his palm. From that moment on, everyone avoided me. Hell, I even went to the bathroom with him. He was going into the women's bathroom and waiting for me right outside the cab door. My screams are ignored. This was already lawlessness. What the hell? Who does he think he is? Oh, how he infuriated me. "Don't you eat shit or pee?" I shouted at him on the way home, but he was unwavering. A week later, my classmate Shane was having a birthday party at her house, and I was invited. "But don't come with your idiot because he scares everyone," she said to me in a whisper. Yes, I would only try to talk to my father. Well, I was hoping in vain. My father just yelled on the phone. "What do you think? I didn't hire him for beauty. It also ensures your safety." It was useless to argue. So I came up with a plan. Pretending to be asleep, I ran out the window. Steve was standing guard outside the door. I really didn't know if he was even sleeping or not. I ran out the window and planned to be back in a couple of hours, so no one would have noticed. My friends came to pick me up in a car. My plan worked. Yeah. Within 30 minutes, I was having fun at Shane's house, drinking cocktails and dancing. Matt came to the party. This was a boy I liked very much. For the first time, I was glad that we were from different schools, because if he saw my shame with a bodyguard, I couldn't bear it. After a couple of glasses of punch, it hit me in the head. I plucked up the courage and decided to dance with him. It was unforgettable. My head was spinning with euphoria, and I couldn't believe I was dancing with him. Our bodies were inches apart. Every touch of our hands made me shudder, and my heart was pounding in my chest. Matt wanted to kiss me, and we reached for each other. And then Matt jerked away from me. It was like an electric shock. I watched in shock as my stupid bodyguard throws Matt aside and everyone moves away from me as if I stink. "What? How dare you? I hate you! Get out of here!" I shouted in tears. Steve took my hand and pulled me into the car. I resisted and was angry with him. I couldn't believe he'd embarrassed me like this. When I got home, the first thing I did was call my father and tell him everything. But guess what? The only response I got was that I broke the rules and ran away from home. I haven't spoken to my father since, or to anyone else. I feel so bad about all this. What would you advise me to do?